Okay, now we're going to clean up the back of your weaving and finish securing your bottom warp strings. In the last video, I showed you how to cut the bottom warp strings off of the loom, pull the top warp strings off of the teeth of the loom, and thread in a dowel while also tightly pulling those warp loops around the dowel. You may not have used a dowel or a stick and pulled those loops tight. You can just pull them tight to the weaving itself. If you're using an organic shaped stick, something you found on the ground outside, I would actually recommend that you pull those warp strings tight to the weaving itself and then sew a new string around your stick and into the weaving to hold them on there. It will work a little bit better in terms of keeping your weaving straight along the bottom and nice and tight. What I've done next after I flipped everything over, threaded my dowel through, is I've been going through each of my little 2 pairs of strings here, each of my warp loops, and I've been tying them in a square knot. So I've got a couple of them left right down here on this end. A square knot, just a reminder from when we did our leather work assignment. A square knot is how you would tie your shoelaces if you were to do that first step of your shoelaces, but doing it twice. So I'm just going to twist the strings around one another once, and then I'm going to do that a second time. That's a square knot. And then I left my last piece here because typically on a weaving, I do have 4 there. Okay, sorry. Sometimes on the end you'll have 3 strings. If that's the case, take 2 together and have 1 separately. In my case, I have an even number all the way across the bottom. It just doesn't always work out that way. It really depends on your particular loom setup. Whether or not you have 3. Oh no, I do have 3. There we go. I have 3 on the end. I've got 2 right here, and then I've got 3 at the end. So I'm going to pull this one nice and tight. Tie that off. So 1 and then 2. Okay, and then down here at the end I have 3. So I'm going to pull that nice and tight to get that to me nice and snug against the stick. I'm going to pull my last one and get that to be nice and snug against the stick, and then I'll just take 2 strings together and 1 by itself, and I'll do the same square knot technique on the end. Okay, so all of my warp strings have been secured along the bottom. They're not going to come out. And now we need to clean up the back of the loom. So I've got my tapestry needle, and then I also have a smaller needle just in case I need that for my warp strings. So what I would start with is, let's just choose any one of these. There's a couple different ways to do this. Some people just find 2 strings that are next to one another and they tie them in square knots and then they clip them short. You'll end up with a little knot on the back that's visible. But some people want the back to be perfectly clean. So you could go about that the way that I've just shown you, which is tying the knots, clipping the strings, and then just leaving little knots on the back because this is the back of your weaving. Or you can do sort of a cleaner finish. And what I'm going to do for that cleaner finish is I'll go ahead and pull this up so you can see a little closer. I'm going to take this string right here. I'm going to take my darning needle, my weaving needle, and I'm going to go up about 3 or 4 strings. So I'm trying not to pass my needle to the front of my weaving. I'm just going behind any of the loops that are here behind, and I've gone underneath 4 strings. So I'm going to go up like that, and then I'm going to thread my yarn through the eye of my needle, hopefully. It's coming undone a little here. That up in there. Okay, so now it's threaded through the eye of my needle, and I'm just going to pull my needle through those strings and pull the thread through. Sorry, this is a little hard to do. Typically I would do this with the material still on the table, but I wanted to be close up so you could see. So now you can see that that end is looped up through. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this back down, kind of spread that out. This is the string that I pushed up and through 4 strings in the back, and I can just now go and clip that short. It's going to be secured into my weaving, and I would do that to every single one of these. I know that that's a lot, but it really does make a difference. So in this case, you can go up or you can go down. Like if you have a string up here, for example, that's left over, there's also a lot of string here. I don't need to keep as much of this string, but for this one, I wouldn't be going up because there's nowhere to go up, but I can go behind 1, 2, 3, and let's do go behind 4 strings. I'm going to pass my string through the eye of my needle. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull it down. So there's a little bit more string to clip off here just because that one was long, but that's fine. There's that. Okay, so now that one has been secured. There. So I want to go ahead and do this to every single piece on the back of my weaving. And once that's all cleaned up and everything is nice and tidy, if you wanted to embroider on the front of your weaving, you could do that then. You want to have the back cleaned up before you embroider, because if you embroider before that, you can get kind of stuck on some of the bunchiness of all of this scrap yarn that's on the back. But embroidering is a really fun technique to add to the front of your weaving because you can add different designs onto the surface, and so it can be a fun way to add new detail onto your weaving. So that's how you take your weaving off of your loom, how you add it to a string, how you knot the strings on the back, and how you clean up the back of your weaving. If you have any questions, send me a message.